Has this problem ever happened to you? Have you ever been at a hotel and the hotel manager decided to call the police on you for no reason?
This specific thing has happened to me 4 times this week. How do we prevent it from happening in the future?
Well, it's called not being I can't say that word on the radio.
It's called this wonderful new product we have called hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer?
Yes, hand sanitizer. It's our brand new product. It allows you to walk into a room, use the hand sanitizer, firmly shake the hand of the manager and say, "Yes, sir, I am a majority shareholder, and you should not treat me in a negative light because I can ruin your life." And they understand all of this through the magic of hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer, the only alcohol that you should use before the age of 21.
Correct! And for all those ladies out there, we have hand sanitizer plus. It has moisturizing cream. And this wonderful magical product can be all yours for a grand total of $9.99. 4 installments of $9.99 hand sanitizer may or may not work as prescripted. I am not a doctor, and this is not a legally tested device whatsoever.
Yes, thank you. Back to the show. Hello, and welcome back to the State of the Fandom. My name is Neil Fox. I am your president for life. The person who has just returned from St. Louis, Missouri. And with me, as always, is my partner in love and in life, the Vice President of Time and Space, Link Labrador.
Hello, this is Link Labrador, the eternal watchdog of the furry fandom, and your amazing floofy boy. So, yes, we just got back from St. Louis, and to start things off, we started the morning off with having the police call us for no reason.
Yes, good job swatting us, guys. Real clever.
Yes. Please, I don't even know how you managed to find us this time. We hide very well. We're basically the furry equivalent of Where's Waldo?
White with glasses?
No!
Yes!
Just the generalized concept of Where's Waldo. It's Where's the Fox Boy and Crazy Labrador.
Well, to be fair, if someone wants to find us, they can just look for gay stuff, and we'll probably be nearby.
Well, if you wanted to find us, quite frankly, why would you want to find us? Second, this time we got swatted, not by any of you guys, but by the hotel manager.
Let's tell the people what happened.
I'm still processing what happened, but what ultimately happened was the hotel manager was a little bit uppity because when you're up at 4 in the morning and trying to reserve a room, you may not have all your faculties intact, whatever they may be.
Now, that is one way of looking at the situation. In my personal opinion, it had a lot more to do with the person working at the front desk who, asked you for another form of ID and then didn't copy it.
Yes, she refused to copy it, and she asked me, "Oh, do you want to use this form of ID, not this form of ID?" And I simply told her, "You are the one trained to do this. You are the one that's been given the education on what exact steps your manager needs to see. If you can't figure that out, I'm sorry, you are very poorly trained in your job."
Oof. Well, true, but probably more harsh than she wanted to hear.
I don't particularly care. Get trained in your job, or someone will replace you who is more competent. Because in this world, it is not good enough to be subpar at anything. Male or female, or non-binary, or potato, if you identify as a potato. It is not good enough to be subpar. It is not good enough to just say, "Oh, it's good enough." That is no longer acceptable in this day and age. You must be exceptional. You must provide exceptional service for yourself, if nobody else.
Right. Take pride in your work, regardless of what it is. Even if it is something that is mundane, even if it is something that is boring, even if it is something that is unfun.
Even if you just happen to be doing a job, you're sitting there, make it look like you're doing something. If you're doing something, you're busy. If you're a welder and there's no work to be done, grab a paintbrush. Make it look like you're doing something. And people will come by and say, "Oh, that guy is doing the greatest job ever. Here's a freebie." I have a freebie for everyone who has nothing to do with their job. Grab a clipboard, grab a piece of paper, and just wander around and just scribble things on the note, on the piece of paper. Make it look like you're doing something. It's very funny when people start reacting. At the very least, you can get a little enjoyment out of watching the terror of your coworkers that you may or may not approve of.
This reminds me of a very funny story that I read a couple of years ago. So somebody took that almost exact same approach, okay, and was wildly successful. So he was going into basic training in the Navy.
Yes.
Okay? And so this young man, instead of lining up with the rest of the soldiers on the first day of the job, he stood aside with a clipboard. And the staff sergeant came up to him and said, "Why are you not standing where I told you to stand?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm in charge of the talent show."
And this worked?
And the staff sergeant said, "Oh, okay, that's fine."
Again, if you sound official and sound like you know what you're doing, people generally leave you alone. Apparently they teach this skill is taught very well in the Navy. If you look like you're doing something important, people leave you alone.
Well, and here's what happened to this young man. Instead of spending his weeks of basic training swabbing decks and doing drudgery and washing dishes, etc., he went around to everyone on the boat and asked them if they had a talent they wanted to show off in the talent show. And what do you know? A couple dozen people were jugglers, singers,
Knife throwers,
whatever.
sword eaters, the average people that show up in the Navy.
Seaman swallowers.
Hey, this is gonna go on the radio.
Cum swallowers.
No.
Okay. I'll have to bleep that out. But here's the thing. And here's what happened to this young man, okay?
Yeah?
They had about 24 performers in this talent show.
Go on.
And the staff sergeant came up to him after the program and said, "That was incredible. Great job."
He got away with it and passed basic training somehow?
He got away with it and got a commendation.
What? How?
By, yes and.
Clearly.
Some of the best yes and that I have personally ever read about. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, friends, if you just yes and with people, you can you can get a lot of places in life.
Yes.
And
or you could have the police called on you multiple times a year. For no reason.
I would like to point out that my wonderful partner, the Labrador, has the police called on him much more frequently than I have the police called on me. Now, to be fair, the times that I have had the police called on me is not zero, but mine, let's see, it was when we were trying to check in early. That's when the police were called on me, and I showed her this was a different hotel, a different stay, and I said,
again, I'm pretty sure it was St. Louis somewhere.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I showed the person, here's my status as a premium member of the hotel rewards program. Here's the time that I'm allowed to check in under that specific tier.
No, wait, that was Ohio. Okay.
Right.
I remember that one.
So yes, I have had the police called on me for showing a person a website that belongs to the company they work for. Not sure exactly how that happened, but the Labrador. Should we tell them the story of what happened at the Goodwill?
Oh. Yes, we shall. Well, you see, I train dogs on a semi-professional level. I volunteer my time at different animal shelters, and I know a thing or two about service animals. Again, I know a thing or two. I understand the basic tenets of what it takes to train a service animal, and I know what to look for in a trained service animal.
Sure.
This lady had 2 service animals. A item fell on the ground, and the dog freaked out. I looked at her, I'm like, those are not service animals. I'm like, hello. Cute dogs. May I pet them? She said, no, they're service animals. I look at her and say, no, they are not. Yes, they are, and I don't have to prove anything. Well, here's the thing. They're not wearing any service animal vests. I can't fathom why you need 2 service animals. That is far above and almost I wouldn't say it's impossible, but generally speaking, having 2 service animals is not the norm.
Well, I guess she could have been blind and deaf, but if only, because then she couldn't have heard what you were saying.
Well, you see. And then she said, I'm calling the police. So I fold my arms, I look at her, I smile and say, go ahead. 5 minutes go by of this weird little standoff, and then she's just like, I'm done. And then I go over, and then I tell her, I'm an expert in the ADA as well. You don't know anything about the ADA. Nothing about the ADA. And then I look at my partner, and I yell across the room, hey, do I know anything about the ADA? While he's sitting in a wheelchair.
Oh yes, the Labrador, who used to be an elevator technician, who had to install elevators for people under strict ADA guidelines.
Correct.
Oh yes, I'm sure you don't know anything about the person who, by the way, has a book in their house about the ADA and how to build buildings, specifically to code.
Correct.
And
I've also built commercial grade. I have also built commercial grade ramps to perfection of the ADA. And let me tell you, those commercial grade ramps can basically support a semi-truck.
Wow.
Basically, give or take. They were designed in the 50s, and I'm pretty sure they took the design documents that you would use to build a personal bunker and just applied that to every concept of, we need to over-engineer this thing so it supports as much weight as humanly possible. Most commercial grade ramps support about 1,500 pounds, like, per square foot or something. It's pretty ridiculous what they're designed to withstand.
Right. Well,
They
I mean,
over-engineer this.
Right. Well, some motorized wheelchairs are super heavy. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know anything about the ADA. Nothing at all. Clearly.
Oh,
And then we sat down, and then we just had a very loud conversation about it.
in my opinion, it wasn't even that loud, but
It was a very loud building. There was a lot going on. It was a packed crowd.
yeah.
And then the lady walked over to the manager, says, "This man is harassing me." No, I'm simply informing you that, I don't believe you.
You know, this reminds me of a certain fandom called the furry fandom that doesn't really like to be called out on, let's say, BS.
Correct. Now, having service animals, I am well trained in being in various restaurant settings. I have been a manager in restaurant settings. I have been a supervisor in restaurant settings. I am very well trained in knowing what to look for in a service animal and what not to look for in a service animal. And yes, by the way, a restaurant can ask you to leave if your animal does not appear to adhere to the guidelines set by the ADA. Yes, people can ask you if your animal is a service animal or not. It doesn't happen very often, but if the manager feels that there's something amiss or feels that someone's abusing this power in some way, yes, the manager can fact check you. They have to be very careful about it. They have to be relatively certain that they're in the right. Mm-hmm. And you have to approach this topic tactfully and carefully.
Correct. Unfortunately, you see this at the airport pretty frequently of people bringing, quote, service animals, and they're like, the dog is running around and barking, and like, it's clearly not trained to be a service. Like,
or it's afraid of people, which service animals are not.
Right.
Or you just kind of treat the dog like it exists, and you don't really care for the animal whatsoever. I'm sorry, those who have service animals will just about kill to protect their service animals, because their service animal means their whole world, if not their safety in its totality.
Correct.
Do not mess with a service animal if they are wearing a service animal vest.
Yes. Most service animals will have a vest that says do not pet or do not approach.
Yep.
Every so often, you'll see one that says that you can approach, especially if the animal's in training.
Yep.
But,
actually, if it's in training, a part of the animal's training is to have other people approach it to become desensitized to people approaching it. That's part of the training, is to have people come to it. Just to, again, it's part of the early stages of the training in general, but that is why in the early stages you see, yes, you can, or it's a personal choice of the owner itself. Usually, if it's a service animal you see frequent, well, make a friendship with the person with the service animal, and then maybe they might let you pet the little fluffy thing. Granted, the little fluffy thing is cute, and we all agree that cute puppies are cute.
Yes, thank you for that incredibly long run-on sentence, my friend.
That's fine.
So, what we are saying is, one, please be honest about whether an animal is a service animal, because there are literally people's lives at stake. And two, let's just not intimidate each other by calling the police.
Right.
That's illegal.
I'm getting very tired of people trying to intimidate me with the police. It's gotten to the point of, oh, you're calling to the police? Well, oh, you're telling me that I can... Oh, getting back to the hotel story. So, we go down to the lobby. Oh, my partner goes first. I get there second. And then, what's going on? Well, I called the police. You guys can go.
And by the way, we posted all of this on our Telegram channel. If anybody wants to see it, currently the Telegram link is Telegram. It's t.me, just the letter T.me /verified Satoshi, VERIFIED SATOSHI.
Yes. So, I get down to the lobby. The supervisor's standing there, and he's just like, I've called the police. You guys can go. So, quick tip for anyone who has had the police called on them, or you think the police has called on you, call their bluff. Stand there and wait for the police to arrive. That takes the power away from the person who called the police.
And by the way, the police are trained, so in an ideal situation, they are trained to be a neutral party. Now, unfortunately, police officers, just like any other human being, are fallible, so it's not always the case. But
Correct.
In general, they will be a neutral party. They are not on the side of whoever called. They are not on the side of whoever is being, talked to or whatever.
Yep.
They are on the side of, okay, has the law been broken? Do we need to take somebody in? That's their job.
And in the vast majority of cases, unless it's some, cut and dry affair, the vast majority of the cases, calling the person's bluff and waiting patiently for the police to arrive defangs their argument so hard that they're doing somersaults in their mind of going, oh my god, oh my, no, what do I do? This usually works. Well, here's the thing. Not being intimidated by these individuals is the best defense to resolving the problem peacefully and easily.
Well, and in particular, in our case, in these multiple different cases when people have done this, we have done nothing to break the law.
Correct.
We paid for our room.
Yep.
We gave them an ID that was completely legit. It was valid. It was ready to go, and they didn't copy it down.
Yes.
This is not our problem. We did everything by the bounds of the law. And so, knowing that, we can speak to the police and say, all right, officers, thank you for... this is something that I strongly encourage people, is make sure, whenever possible, to be respectful in these situations. Even if the person does not deserve respect. Even if you're thinking in your mind, oh, this person is a jerk. I don't want to have to respect them. I'm telling you, audience and puppy,
Yep.
being respectful to people, generally speaking, will de-escalate a situation.
I am respectful towards people to some degree.
Sure. For example, if you are talking to the police, you are not required to answer their questions.
Correct.
But what you can do is say something like,
Am I being detained?
may I speak, please? Thank you. Something that you can say is, thank you so much for coming, officers. I greatly appreciate your service. What can I do for you today?
Yes.
Because you are showing to them that you are not afraid of them, that you have done nothing wrong, and you don't look guilty.
Correct.
If the police walk in and you go, oh no, why are you here? Oh God, you look guilty, even if you've done nothing wrong.
Here's the thing. We get the police called on us all the time.
Part of being a journalist.
It's a Tuesday for us.
And people are shocked when we don't react to someone, to two very big men, each of them at least twice as big as me, walking in with guns. And we go, hello, officers, thank you for coming. I greatly appreciate it. The officers are like, well, great, there's no problem here. And the person who called them goes, oh, crap.
Oh no, what did I just do? I just used my biggest tool in my toolbox, and it didn't work.
And by the way, just for the sake of, in a couple of months when we're protesting at BLFC and Anthro-Ohio and Anthrocon and all of these furry conventions that have already banned us from attending, by the way.
Well, bad to you. They don't seem to know I exist most of the time.
I'm pretty sure they can figure it out. But the point is, it is our right to protest on public property, is it not?
It is our right.
And therefore, if we attend one of these conventions and peacefully and non-violently protest against what we see as injustice towards the animals that Kiro and his friends have hurt, that is our right to do.
It is. Again, when the police get called on us, it's just a Tuesday. Believe it or not, it's just a Tuesday for us.
Right. So, my point with this specific thing that I'm bringing up is furries. Go right ahead. Call the police if you want, because it will not help. I will make sure that I call them in advance and I say, by the way, we are going to be conducting this protest today, here at this time, at this place, at this convention, and if somebody calls you, we are more than happy to talk to your officers, but we want to let you know in advance that we might have counter-protesters.
Yes, we might have counter-protesters. Now, getting back to the Goodwill story, the way it ended was very funny, very fun. The manager came out and started yelling at us, as all good managers do. Here's another tip of what not to do when you're a manager. 101. Don't accuse your customers of doing. Don't falsely accuse your customers of. Just to bring the story up to speed. And our new segment, What Not to Do 101 as a manager. Number 1, don't falsely accuse your customers of stealing things with no proof. Number 2, don't immediately freak out at the people that are having a conversation about the ADA in your lobby. Step 3, don't escalate it to calling the police and then taking your phone out and going, I can do this too, I can do this too, I can do this too. That happened.
Because we were recording in a single-party consent state.
Yes.
That's important context for what you're saying, because just saying holding a phone out doesn't make any sense. We were holding our phone out first, obviously, because any time that we are in a single-party consent state and something like this happens, we start recording.
Correct.
And there's just another freebie for you guys, okay? Check and see if your state is what's called a single-party consent state, which means you can record without the other person's direct permission.
Yes.
In these states, it is perfectly legal to record your interactions with the police, and we highly recommend that you do so.
Yes. And to continue that lovely Goodwill story. So the Goodwill manager came out, started screaming at all of us, plus the individual that we were having a interview with. The individual that we were having an interview with had retired, was independently wealthy, and for some reason just decided to ride around on a bike all day, because honestly, what else is there to do? No, seriously. The dude was alright. And then the manager comes over and screams at him and says, I know this guy, he's homeless! He's in the middle of his lobby, surrounded by probably 50 people. He's a homeless man, what are you doing? Blah, blah. He screamed obscenities and whatnot. And then I turn around and I snap on this guy, because I have worked in Goodwill, and I know what Goodwill's creeds are. I know what Goodwill's mottos are. Be kind. Be courteous. Be polite. Basically, it's a 4-point creed, and it boils down to be a good citizen to others. Right. This guy was a manager. Oh, and Goodwill's another thing that Goodwill is trying to do is end homelessness. Somehow. End homelessness, but yet pay their CEOs $800,000 a year. I'm not exactly sure how they're supposed to do that. No, their creed is specifically stable living for 800,000 citizens or something. Again, basically they just put out a number and they say, we're helping in some convenient way by paying our CEOs a ton of money and making sure that we get departments shut down. That's a whole nother rant on its own. Getting back to what happened at Goodwill. So, I turn around, I get my phone out, and then I snap on this lowlife, this horrible excuse for a manager, and demand to know, first of all, I demand to know where he gets off on calling his customers homeless individuals. I demand to know where he gets off saying this horrible stuff about individuals. About people. Just absolutely horrendous individual. Words cannot describe the levels of anger and frustration and sheer disrespect this man had instilled in the room that day. It was just... You'll have to hear the audio. I can't make it up, and I can't repeat what was said.
Not FCC compliant, let's say.
Exactly. Not FCC compliant. This guy went straight off the rails, became real vulgar, real quick. Real grade A material for a manager. Let's put it this way. So, we start to leave. I start to go, and then he races out the door real quick, and he takes his camera out, and he's like, I'm gonna film this. I'm like, I have every single fiber of my being saying, I must keep my cool, I must keep my calm. What I want to do is show this SOB who's in charge. And then we just kind of drive off after that.
Well, we had other things we needed to do that day besides talk to the police.
Yeah. He may have called the police, he may have been bluffing. We didn't bother sticking around to find out.
Right.
Oh, it's almost like that gas station. Remember when the cops were called on us again?
Oh my god. Yes. Unfortunately, I remember that all too well. When all we did was point out that
the door was not ADA. It was on the wrong side of the hinges.
Yes, thank you for interrupting me. The door could not, in any way, be entered by someone in a wheelchair on their own, which is incredibly illegal. Blocking off access to the restroom for anyone in a wheelchair who did not have someone to assist them to pull their wheelchair up about a 4-inch step.
Again. So, we let this manager politely know that he was in horrific violation of the ADA. And this wasn't just some no-name gas station, this was a BP gas station.
Correct. A gas station owned by the corporation British Petroleum. By the way, British Petroleum, a company owned by, in part, British shareholders in a country where their version of the ADA is so strict. It's wild. It's wild. When I visited the UK a couple of times, and like one time I was going down on the subway, okay?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, where's the elevator? And I go down one elevator, and it's just it's not even an entire floor. It's like half a floor, and yet there's an entire elevator for it. And then there's another floor, and you have to go down a separate elevator to go down these other floors. So they went through the trouble of building 2 separate elevators in the subway, in this specific subway station in London. And I was just like, that is
crazy.
I approve of the dedication to disability access. This is just way over the top.
I've heard over in Europe that they take health and safety very seriously, and clearly they do.
In the UK specifically, they do.
Yes.
In large part because their healthcare system is basically entirely funded by the government.
Yep.
And so if someone gets hurt, the government has to pay for it. And so it's much cheaper for the government to prevent accidents than to pay for people's health care.
Wait. They've heard of preventative maintenance? They actually
my God, what
that?
A concept.
Here in the U.S., it's someone has to pass away before we can even lift a finger to figure out what to do.
This reminds me of a very funny part of my trip to the UK for one of the Brony conventions that I went to. They said 15 people. This was a poster on the subway, okay?
Yeah.
The London subway, a city of I don't know how many millions of people, okay?
Yep.
It said something like 15 people were injured last year because they didn't step on the tube correctly. Please, make sure to step on the tube correctly. Mind the gap. And I'm like, if 15 people hurt their foot on the New York subway, they would call that an excellent Friday.
If 15 people hurt themselves, yeah, correct. Try 1,500 plus 3 infant mortalities, and then they might actually do something in New York.
Did someone give birth on the subway? Is that what you're saying?
In New York, again, dramatic things have to happen in New York for anything meaningful to happen. Keep in mind, New York had 9/11, and it took them 20 years to build buildings that should have been up in a year and a half.
Wow. Well, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Welcome back. This is Ira Glass for NPR. My name is Ira Glass. This is This American Life. Our story today is in 4 parts. Act 1. Why do managers keep calling the police on us?
Because we have a tendency of me being a freight train and you not being a freight train, and the manager does not understand how to deal with a freight train customer that has basically just doesn't worry about the opinions of others when it comes to, at the end of the day, yeah, I just don't care. I just want my product, and that product is a bed, and you get in between me and that bed. Well, them are fighting words. And
see, let me just paint you guys a picture. Those of you listening, let me just paint you a picture, because I tend to be a very goal-focused person. Okay, hence my putting together and executing a multi-year plan of creating a documentary about furries, for example. But my wonderful Labrador,
yes,
is more of a next thing focused person.
Yes.
So
and that next thing is a bed. Don't get in between me and my bed.
Let's just imagine, okay? Let's imagine that we're talking about something vitally important, like, well, let's make sure that we get the rent paid this month, for example. Let's just, so, something very important, all right?
Yes.
And I'm talking with him about it, and I can just see his eyes glaze over. Just just like a beautiful glazed donut. Just nothing there. And I go, oh, he's hungry. Oh, he's thinking about food.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, and I'll have to say something like, dear, do we need to stop for food? And he'll go, yes. Hungry. I need nuggies.
Exactly.
Give me the nuggets.
Well,
Give me the nuggies.
Well, here's the thing. I know that there's enough money in the bank to pay rent.
Take the interchange on the left.
I know there's enough money in the bank to take care of rent. So I'm just like, it's there. It's in the shared account. Just deal with it.
Well, my point is that
It's in the account. Just deal with it.
my point is that this has happened several times.
It has.
When I have been talking to you about something important, and your ears just turn off. You might as well just have like earmuffs on, and just a thought, like a cartoon thought bubble of a hamburger over your head. Specifically, okay, what is it with you and dogs and hamburgers? Because for some reason, every dog that I have ever seen, including you, if there is a hamburger anywhere nearby, their attention is 1,000% focused on that burger.
Well, you see, I speak for the dogs. I am the Labrador. I speak for the dogs.
I am the Borkax. I speak for the doggos.
Exactly. I might as well be the next Caesar Malone.
That's great.
But you see food. I hungry. I want the burger. So I acquire the burger, and then all function stops until burger is consumed.
I have learned this through long and difficult experience.
Take the interchange on the left.
Because here's the thing. I could be literally starving to death. And if I am thinking about why black holes are a four-dimensional object that can be described with
Take the
only
interchange on the left.
one,
Then keep right at the fork.
I can describe a black hole with only one dimension, its
right at the
size, but it is a four-dimensional object. Like these are the kinds of questions that I would gladly speak about for 36 hours at a time, because I'm just that strange.
Well, you see, I'm strange in the opposite realm of I can talk about something for hours at a time until it turns to food time. Then I need food time, because food time is food time, and anyone who has dogs in the audience can understand. The dogs don't care what you're talking about if they haven't been given their kibble.
See, this reminds me of one of my favorite videos on the internet, which is of Zeus the stubborn husky. And this wonderful dog was born with the husky stubborn streak. And apparently, according to the owner, he had been out of water for approximately 10 seconds. He had drunk all of his water.
And he attacks the bowl.
He proceeded to put both of his front paws in his metal water bowl and jump up and down on it like a tambourine. And go,
my dogs did something very similar. When the bowl was empty and they were frustrated the bowl was empty, it was on this elevated platform type thing, and they would take the bowl out, knock the bowl over, drag the bowl around the house just a little bit, and we would go, you need water there, bub? Yes.
yes. So let's just say, don't get between this man and food, or bed, or stuffed animals, dog treats, dog toys.
Just don't get between me and food. Just don't. Just don't.
Just don't get in his way. There you go. There's a good summary. Just don't get in his way.
Yeah, just don't get in my way, bro.
See, and this is one of the reasons why we work so well together. Because the things that are important to you are things that I often overlook. And the things that are important to me are things that you sometimes overlook. And that's okay. Different people have different strengths.
Fortunately, we have enough overlap between the things that aren't important to each other that we look out for each other for the important things.
Correct. For example, my wonderful doggo, as he was just saying, he helps me remember to eat when I am working on my, website or YouTube video or whatever, and he's like, food time, stop computer, go make me food.
Yes.
Put things in the Instapot and make me food. I hungry.
Yes.
And
I am trying to train him to feed himself.
I greatly appreciate it. It is
a difficult task.
For people who are autistic. Sometimes it is something that is a big challenge for them. It's just one of those things. Either you're born with it or you're not. You are either born with, and the vast majority of people are just born with. Okay, I have a need to eat, and it is not a problem. And then some people, like myself, are born with minds that race forward at 1,000 miles a minute. And if food is not present in the mental architecture, it's left by the wayside.
I'm pretty sure he would starve himself to death if I wasn't around some days.
I did actually, I think I've told you this before, but I know I haven't talked about it on the show. I actually struggled with being underweight when I was a kid because of this issue.
Yeah, nowadays I have made sure that in our undisclosed location that we have
a bunker under Area 51.
That we actually have an excess of stuff. Just because, stuff happens.
Uh-huh.
We've covered these very principles on this radio program before, but prepping for unconventional situations, everyone else, guys, smarten up. Weird stuff's about to go down. I don't know what weird stuff, but California's currently, underwater, so...
Good job, California. You managed somehow to be both in the middle of a multi-decade drought and underwater at the same time. Amazing. You never cease to impress, California.
Oh, next week is going to catch on fire, so they'll have fire, flood, and drought. Oh my. What is going on? If there's anyone in California, reach out to us. What on earth is going on over there?
Yes, we definitely need a California correspondent. We have her right here. Her name is Jenny Nicholson. Well, welcome to the program, Jenny.
Oh, hi, Jenny. Yes, please call us. We would really like to know your expose on My Little Pony and what's going on in California.
By the way, I'm just joking. Jenny, I would love to work with Jenny Nicholson, the YouTuber, but I don't know her personally. But
she probably knows about you.
I mean, she was in the Brony fandom for many, many years.
She knows Torben.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
She was in. Remember Torben's video, the video about the ponies?
Oh, yeah.
At least mention Torben.
I should reach out to her via email or Twitter or something and ask her if she wants to be on our show about the Brony fandom, because she has a lot of intricate knowledge of it, and she did that whole video about it back in the day.
Yes, I have basically no knowledge of the Brony fandom other than friendship is magic and you can defeat Satan with magic and friendship pretty easily. Your average anime of we have magic, we have friendship, and now we can go beat Satan with magic and friendship. Like every single Final Fantasy plot. Just
this reminds me of something fun that we could talk about for the next couple of dozen minutes while we're driving home. Because we have a concept for a children's television show that we would like to create. And
Yes.
our spaceship, our time machine in the show, will be powered by the dual fuels of friendship.
And chaos.
Friendship and chaos?
What? Discord's awesome.
That's true.
It's voiced by John Delancey.
That's true. Discord, the character from My Little Pony.
Yes, he's awesome. He's my favorite character in the entire show.
You would like a character whose primary focus is creating chaos? I'm so shocked.
He's a god of change.
Yes.
I like it. Oh, I'm also a follower of Zinch in Warhammer. Agent of Chaos and Change.
Yes.
I like Chaos and Change. It's how we progress forward in this world.
Yes.
Chaos and change is the driving motivator of new technologies, innovative technologies. How do we get something done when things have gone south? What do we do when things have gone south? How do you react?
Right.
Without chaos and change, you do not know how to react until it's far too late.
Right. Well, and you were talking about prepping for emergency situations a few
Yes.
minutes ago. And this is a great example, okay? It is a simple fact that the only constant in life is change.
Correct.
According to the Buddha, the only constant in life is suffering. So I would argue that suffering and change are really the only two things you can definitely count on happening.
Well, the other thing that you can definitely count on happening comes from Benjamin Franklin, and that is
Syphilis!
death and taxes.
Syphilis!
Death and taxes.
Yes.
Again, there are very few constants in this world other than equal and opposite reactions.
And here is something that I would like our listeners in the land of radio. I would love for them to give their feedback on this. And you can go to our websites. The website for the show is neilfoxshow.com. So Neil Fox Fox show.com. And there, all of our contact information is on there. So here, I just want your feedback on this because I grew up in a very conservative family, okay? Very religious, very conservative. And as I grew, I learned many things about myself, and I developed a more balanced perspective of I care about how things were done in the past. I want to learn from history. I want to learn from the past. But I also want to look to the future and say, well, there's no need to be stuck in the mud about these things. Because if you're talking about, say, electric cars, for example, it is a simple fact that trying to fight against electric cars at this point is a useless endeavor.
You are better off trying to push a rock up a hill endlessly. Electric cars are going to become the future. Now, do I think trying to force everyone to have an electric car within 30 years is a sane idea? I've looked at the logistics capabilities of the United States of America and said, well, 2 and 2 equals 4, and what they're currently trying to do is replace every single car in America with an electric car. We do not have the logistics capability to pull that off right now. So it's a mildly insane plan.
Mildly insane, just like us.
Now, we've prototyped a few ideas, and we have theoretical ideas of how we could possibly give everyone in America an electric car on top of step 1, modify every single neighborhood to be energy independent. Step 2, have an excess of energy for every single state. Step 3, then we can think about changing over every single car, every single tractor trailer, and every single building to electric. Somehow we're going to get all the raw materials to do that. Not entirely sure where we're going to get all those raw materials, and no one else has thought about where we're going to get these raw materials. Thank you, politicians, trying to tell... here's an excellent analogy. A politician is trying to teach a horse rider how to ride a horse.
Nay.
Exactly.
Soul Sister. Go ahead.
So.
It's a Jenny Nicholson joke. Sorry. So, let's go through these steps, because this is something that I want to make sure that the listeners know.
Yes.
And this is something that I want their feedback on this as well.
Yep.
Because we want to make sure this plan is fully airtight and is able to be put into practice on day one when we get elected. Okay?
Correct.
So, step one is creating the manufacturing capacity for what is needed. So,
Yes.
things like batteries, the cars themselves, and the charging stations all take a lot of energy and a lot of materials to produce.
And also requires a lot of energy and materials, not only to produce, but to maintain.
Absolutely.
A lot of energy to maintain all that, on top of the energy output of the factory, or factories with an S, to produce every single one of these solar panels, giant batteries, giant cars. Again, are we mining asteroids for raw materials yet? No. Why are we trying to do this?
See, the thing is, people do not understand existential risk enough. Now, we've talked about it before in the program, but it bears repeating because it is important.
It is.
Existential risk means risk to every single person on Earth.
Yes.
And when we're talking about pollution, when we're talking about making sure that the oceans don't rise up by 50 feet, when we're talking about making sure that everyone has human rights, these are the kinds of things that affect every person. Every single person is affected by these things.
Yes.
And so, if we don't all pull in the same direction, we as a species will fail and most likely not survive the next century. Like,
Correct.
this is a serious issue.
Yes.
And so, here's the thing. The thought behind it is a good one. Oh yes, we're going to create electric cars and we're going to reduce carbon emissions. Well, great. How are you going to do that? What are the specific steps, Governor of California? What are the specific steps to get to all electric cars by 2035? Oh, you don't have any?
We have to make sure that these old diesel-engined vehicles are no longer on the road. Well, hey, Genius says the older diesel engines are far more capable of taking virtually any sort of fuel source that you could possibly do. Here's a thought. Instead of banning them, you produce more of them. And you just have every single car in America use a diesel engine and figure out a way to mass produce a biofuel such as, I don't know, algae. Maybe we could start there.
Oh, but what? Where would we ever find the space on Earth to put algae farms? Oh, I don't know. How about the ocean?
How about the ocean? How about on massive barges out in the ocean? They already put drilling wells out there.
Right. We put drilling wells out there at the cost of typically $1 billion per oil rig. You're telling me we can't spend $1 billion making an algae farm out in the middle of the ocean? I'm sorry, but humans are good at coming up with novel solutions to problems. And yes, maybe a different solution for creating biofuel would be better. For example, another possible solution is a smaller biofuel reactor, essentially, biofuel creator, that a person would have in their house.
Or, alternatively, you can put biofuel reactors mixed in with solar panels, mixed in with natural gas,
Sure.
mixed in with nuclear energy, and use a trifecta of different energy types, because that is what it's going to take. You're not going to have 8 million wind farms. Not going to happen. You're not going to have 8 billion solar panels. I'm sorry. Sounds cute. Horribly impractical. Next question.
Right.
With our current engineering capabilities here in the United States, without China, we would be lost as a nation. We need China to survive. Why do you think World War III will never happen, guys?
Well, World War III with China specifically.
World War III with China will never happen. China, I'm not going to get into speculative of world politics right now, because quite frankly, the entire situation with China, Russia, Ukraine, this new cryptocurrency that's apparently going over into China, on top of the massive amounts of control that cryptocurrency has over that police state has over that cryptocurrency, is on the magnitude of 1984. Oh, cute, it's a to-do list. Oh, we did it already.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to see, I would personally like to see a world within my lifetime where everyone has as much food as they need, everyone has shelter, everyone has as much energy as they need, everyone has as much opportunity and education. They have as the ability to create whatever life for themselves and their family that they choose.
Correct.
That is the world that I would like to see. What I would just be heartbroken to see is, one, cities flooded by rising sea levels, causing a humanitarian crisis of over 1 billion people.
Yeah.
2, the planet becoming unlivable because of pollution.
Correct.
Why are we not fixing this problem? This is not a difficult problem.
And 3, one thing that I don't want to see at this point, I don't want to see half measures, stopgap measures for problems and situations that we've created ourselves. Now, I have been paying attention to what's happening in the House, the Senate, and the Republican and the Democratic Party. Let's see. The Republicans have lost their collective minds, and they're about as unified as a broken Twinkie. No, seriously, they're about as unified as a box of Dippin' Dots. I look at it, I'm like, it took you 17 votes. You take, what, 10, 12, 14? How many votes was it?
19 last I heard. I don't know if that's how many it was by the end of it.
It took 19 votes to figure out who was going to lead them?
And what do you know? The guy that everybody thought was going to win won the vote.
Yes.
So this could have happened on vote 1, and it would have been the same outcome.
Correct. Meanwhile, we have these clowns going, I want to be in charge. No, I want to be in charge. Mine, 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 mine. Meanwhile, the Democrats going, Joe Biden has classified documents and more classified documents. Where does this rabbit hole go? Does he even know where these classified documents? Apparently they were sitting next to his Mercedes or something. They were just sitting in his garage with his car.
So here's what we're going to do, okay? Because you don't particularly care about paperwork, and I don't particularly care about paperwork. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get that very, very talented young man who we met at the Martin Luther King Library in Washington, D.C., who is one of the directors of the Library of Congress. And we are going to put him on our team, and we're going to make him the chief paperwork officer to make sure that things get filed where they are supposed to go.
Correct.
Because this is just absurd. Come on, guys. I mean, take the documents and keep them in a safe place. This should not be that complicated.
But they're top secret documents. That's even worse somehow.
How about just, an encrypted device that if someone other than the president touches their fingerprint to it, it completely wipes its memory. It's something. Like, this should not be that difficult.
I mean, we can always keep them with Hillary Clinton's very secure server rack as well.
Oh, yes. We'll definitely be using the HillaryClinton.com email servers for our emails, of course.
Of course. Oh, and by the way, very suspicious, those hard drives went through. There were 17 sets of those hard drives, and they all managed to magically fail.
How strange.
I'm not into conspiracies. I'm just going...
You're not into conspiracies.
I'm not into this.
You're not into conspiracy. What are you talking about?
I'm not into this conspiracy.
Who told me that he heard about a three-headed person interviewed on one radio program called Coast to Coast AM Radio?
Me.
What is Coast to Coast AM known for?
Weird conspiracies?
Yes!
Well, if that three-headed individual ever hears this radio program, call out to us. Because either I'm crazy or you really don't want to be found on the internet, because I've tried to find you.
You know that people can just call in to Coast AM and just say they have three heads, right?
Again, if you're out there, I would like to hear from you. Next question.
Well, I'm sure that all 6 of their ears are listening right now to what you have to say. Yes, so, getting back to our subject. We want to be able to fix these problems, and we have plans and details of exactly how to do it, and the details of which you can find on my campaign website, which is fox2028.com, fox2028.com. And on there we talk about a bunch of different proposals, including education, gun reform, all kinds of good stuff.
Yes, education, gun reform. Quite frankly, my ideas of gun reform are...
Take the exit on the right.
Education, 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 education.
And the simple fact is that approach will solve most of the problems.
Correct.
Not all of them, to be fair, but most problems in the United States could be easily solved with education.
Yes. We don't want to legislate guns out of existence. What we want to do is inform people on how to use them correctly, inform people how to use them effectively, and teach people on a federal level the laws behind the firearms so you can use them to benefit others in a safe, respectful manner. Because most people do not know the laws around using justified lethal force. Most people do not know what to do after you defend others. And one of the things that you are supposed to do when you defend others with lethal force is to put your firearm away and attend to the person you just mowed down, basically.
Jesus, that's morbid. Okay.
I'm trying not to make it morbid, but...
I'm trying not to make it morbid when I'm talking about using lethal force. Contradiction in terms much.
I'm sorry, but what I'm saying is the vast majority of individuals think it's cool to open carry, but what I have personally witnessed looking at them and talking to them, they would not rate high as far as what to do afterwards.
Right. Well, again, most people don't know what to do in a crisis.
Correct.
This is something that is vitally important, and this is something that I want to make sure that our listeners are well prepared, because the simple fact is the vast majority of people will have some type of major emergency at some point in their lives, even if it's 60 years from now, even if it's 20 years from now. It is helpful to have that information. It is not a detriment in any way to have the information ready to use when you need it.
Correct. And in our case, emergency situations are kind of, it's a Tuesday.
Well, this is what happens when you marry a journalist, my dear.
Yes, exactly. It's a Tuesday for us.
Yeah, I'm sure the furries are going to be very upsetty when you are open carrying at our protest events.
That's fine.
It's going to be glorious. It's going to be glorious.
Oh, are we going to talk about Chris Chan at all?
We are going to talk about Chris Chan. In fact, our second episode of our series, called Predators, is going to be about Chris Chan and about the story of Sonichu, the whole story of how Chris Chan became famous on the internet, and the most recent story, which just happened very, very, very recently, of Chris Chan being arrested for molesting their elderly, dementia-ridden mother.
Yes. And as far as I'm concerned, he's going to get all the love and attention he's ever needed in prison.
Jesus. Now, to clarify our stance on this, because I'm sure people will ask when we put out the episode, I personally choose to respect the pronouns that Chris wants to use. Chris is a transgender female person, and so uses she, her pronouns for herself. Now, my wonderful puppy has a difference of opinion, and that's okay.
And my opinion is, he's a felon in prison who took advantage of his elderly mother, and as far as I'm concerned, he does not have a say in what people call him anymore. He's crossed a line, and he's lost all of my respect, and he will receive all the love and attention that he's ever wanted in prison.
Did you hear that Chris Chan has become like a crazy, prophet or something, where Chris Chan thinks she thinks she's the reincarnation of Jesus Christ?
Well, he's not. Next question.
Oof. Yeah, if anyone is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, it is not you, Chris Chan. But yes, just a little tidbit for our viewers who are not chronically online like some of the younger people of the audience. So Chris Chan became very famous around the year 2008 by posting a comic. At the time, he was using male pronouns, so I will refer to this version, I should say, as male. He posted online this comic called Sonichu, which is a combination of Sonic and Pikachu, which is definitely the most creative idea that Chris has ever had.
Yes. He has. And I've seen this character fanfic. I go, are you joking? You think this is okay, it's a good design for someone just starting out in art, but this is not the final product at all. You can do better, and I expect you to do more with this character in the future. No, he more or less just kept it the absolute, quite frankly, when it comes to artwork and it comes to artists, everyone starts at the same level of, yes, it's bad. Yes, it's bad. Yes, this is a first draft. Everyone understands that you're not going to be Picasso the first moment. You're not a savant. Most people are not savants when they just start artwork.
Sure.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, a lot of effort. Fair enough. So, the artwork looks terrible. I haven't seen if he's updated it anytime soon.
It has not changed at all.
Oh, so it still looks like a cartoonish mess?
It looks like a 5-year-old with dementia drew it.
Oh, okay. I was trying to give him a tiny shred of dignity.
Well, let's just say that a person who designed a necklace of their character called a Sonichu medallion and wore this medallion all day, every day, including whenever he would go out in public. Let's just say that that person has no respect left.
Yeah.
And this was before he molested his elderly mother.
Well, after that, you really have no respect left, and I'm sorry, you're a sir.
Again, like I said, for the current version, or for the part of the story where Chris has transitioned to female, I choose to respect the pronouns, not because I respect Chris Chan, but because I respect my friends who are transgender and prefer to use whatever pronouns are appropriate for them. Now, it is up to you whether or not you respect those pronouns or not, but
I do
like
not,
I said, that is my decision on that.
I do not respect his portrayal of his pronouns. I do not respect the fact that he pretends to be a woman when he's taking advantage of his elderly mother. I'm sorry, if you're going to be trans, you're going to be respectful towards others.
Right, well, and not just trans, but yeah, everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone needs to learn to respect each other if they haven't already.
Yes.
Because let's just point out, okay, that there are some aspects that we can all agree were better in the past.
Yes.
Such as people respecting each other.
Correct.
Like, this should not be a controversial thing to be like,
No.
You know what? Why don't we all work together and make compromises so that everyone gets part of what they want instead of everyone getting none of what they want?
Correct. Now, I'm not anti-trans at all.
Right.
But there are certain aspects of respect that all members of society need to uphold. Otherwise, I'm sorry, whatever you say is going on, I'm sorry, you lost me at Albuquerque and you wound up in prison. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You took advantage of your own mother. I'm sorry, you violated your mother. You have no respect in my book.
No respect at all.
You have no respect. You get what's coming to you. And if nobody wants to respect the fact that you're trans, you know what? You deserve it at that point. You've earned that badge of honor. Good job, Chris.
Wow. Did I ever tell you that I actually met Chris Chan once?
You did.
Yes, at the infamous Too Many Games convention in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, before the prison sentence. We happened to be at the same convention, so that's a fun story that we'll tell on the show. But
Oh yeah.
Also, just to clarify for any people who haven't heard of it yet, our show, Predators, is going to be talking about people who have been accused of taking advantage of other people.
Yes.
So this could include people who are cult leaders. This could include people from the furry fandom. This could include people like Chris Chan, who are part of various different fandoms, but, not particularly a furry.
Who took advantage of your elder mother. That's a big no-no in my book.
Uh-huh. And here's the thing. What people need to understand is that our goal is to seek for the truth.
Yes.
So there may be some cases where we look at all the evidence and we say, we are not sure. This is unconclusive.
Or we might look at all the evidence and say, yeah, oh wow, this is worse than we remembered. Or this is worse than we first thought.
That's really how I feel about the Christian story. Like, the farther you dig down into the story, the more weird and crazy and, like, just off-the-wall absurd that it gets.
Well, it's like the Furry Valley thing. Furry Valley and Chris Bryan.
Yeah, the owner of the server.
Yes. We are working on those stories as well, and it's events that I personally went through, personally witnessed.
Yeah.
So I have a very whistleblower-esque take on the situation. My lovely partner only heard about it secondhand.
I did actually have a conversation with Mr. Bryant, or Symbolion. I did actually have a conversation with him at one point. I'm trying to remember how we started the conversation, but anyway, that's pretty much the only connection that I ever had with it. I was never like a big user of Furry Valley.
Well, I was an admin. I made friends with all the other admins. I knew what was going on at the top. I managed to work my way, basically, a fly on the wall into the inner circle, and really started to know what was going on, and went, yeah, I'm going to go make my own decisions on this. Wound up getting banned, and that was the worst decision Chris Bryan ever made. Good job.
Wow. Yeah, let's say peeving, just to be FCC compliant, but peeving off an investigative journalist is a very bad idea.
Crossing swords with a freight train, such as myself, I have grown up since then. I have become better educated since then, and I've become vastly less empathetic towards abusive behavior since then.
Right. I get the impression. I get the impression that you used to give people more benefit of the doubt.
I did. I gave people more benefit of the doubt because that's kind of how I was raised, and then I worked through ridiculous situations at work, in the real world, and, working with coworkers and seeing, a slightly brighter side to things. Nowadays, unfortunately, I don't see much of a brighter side of a lot of things anymore. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, hospitals. Thank you, seeing people pass away on a almost daily basis for a while.
Yeah.
That has colored my worldview to a little more, let's make this place a little brighter because all I see is grays and blacks. Let's do something about it.
Well, this is a great topic for us to end the show on, because we've talked about this before, but we are going to be talking about it many times in the future. The simple fact is, in my personal opinion, the biggest problem that the world has right now is not pollution, or electric cars, or refugees, or government spending, or whatever. Those are all things that need to be fixed, but in my opinion, they are not the biggest problem that we face.
Let me put my spin on that.
Sure.
Those are all problems in the transitory state.
Right.
Those are all problems that are part of the train of issues that can be solved one after another. You have to start with a key point and then burn your way through the candy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, in my opinion, the biggest problem that we have right now in the world is, in a word, despair.
Yes.
Because any salesman can tell you, or saleswoman, whatever, salesperson, any salesperson can tell you that if you believe that you will not get the sale, you won't. Every time. Meanwhile, if you believe that you will get the sale, most often you will. Not every time. Sometimes you strike out, even with your best efforts, but more often than not, you will get the sale if you believe that you will get the sale. And this principle applies to most things that you can do. If you believe that you can start a profitable business, you probably can.
Yes. Well, it's a form of self-meditation. It is also a form of self-hypnosis on a fundamental level of your individual psyche.
Mm-hmm.
If you make yourself believe without a doubt, or with as few doubts as possible, you will be more successful in life because you will be confident. You will be ready to take on that next challenge. Even if you're not ready to take on that next challenge, you're going to try it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You might strike out. You might bunt the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You might hit a grand slam, or you might just hit a home run, or you might manage to magically hit the ball and then hit the pitcher in the face with the ball.
Interesting mixed metaphor. But yes.
All baseball terms.
Yes, thank you. Here's the thing. I see a lot of people say things like, well, it can't be fixed. We can't fix politics. We can't fix voting rights. We can't fix civil rights. And I'm just like, yeah, with that attitude, it's impossible. With that attitude, it is impossible.
Now, on this very radio program, we have gone through the Constitution. And you know what the Constitution says? That the House of Representatives is basically understaffed, according to the Constitution itself right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's supposed to be every 30,000 citizens gets an additional representative.
Representative in the House of Representatives,
Yeah.
specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
The House of Representatives has been understaffed for right around 100 years now.
And what do you know? If we simply went back to the Constitution, we would no longer have an issue with the Electoral College, because the Electoral College would no longer be significantly affected by the fact that there are only 2 senators from each state.
No, it would be adjusted for the inflation of the state.
In half a
The
mile.
framers of the country realized the country would keep growing. Amazing! It's almost like they had a time machine or something.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. My name's Nicolas Cage.
Exactly. No, we have the tools to fix the problem. Nobody wants to take the wrench out, and everyone's trying to use the saw on the leaky pipe.
Yes. The simple fact is, if we all work together, every single person, if we all work together, we might be able to turn this around.
We stand a better chance united than we do divided, America. And
Correct.
divided is what the politicians at the top want. Divided is what Joe Biden wants. Divided is what Donald Trump wants. Our presidents so far want the country divided because united, there are a lot more of us than there are of them. And unfortunately, we are underrepresented in this nation. We've done a little bit of math, and we figured out that the vast majority of the House of Representatives generally have time to talk to the lobbyists and basically nobody else.
Correct. So there's been cuts in congressional staffing, funds, for one.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, many of these lawmakers are now basically put into a position where they have to rely on the lobbyists to do a lot of the paperwork and writing bills and stuff like that because they don't have enough staff to do it. You're talking about a government where the average person in Congress represents 750,000 people. And I'm sorry, good luck representing the interests of 750,000 people. That's really hard.
No, that's not really hard. That is designed to fail.
Correct.
We have failed the nation by simply not reading what those that came before us had written down and had already thought through ad nauseam.
Mm-hmm.
People, our framers and founders had fights over what direction the nation was supposed to go 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
They were violently passionate about making sure it was done right the first time. And you know what, America? We failed Washington. Every single one of us have failed this nation unequivocally. Good job, America. You failed the nation. You failed yourselves. You failed your kids. You are all objective failures for allowing this asinine, petty, childish behavior to go on in Washington as long as it has. Why aren't more people standing up and saying, we're tired of this? We're tired of seeing our politicians fail us at every single turn. We're tired of the world saying that we have failed the world unequivocally. Evil will rise in this world, and it will consume the world if we do not pull our collective you-know-what together and figure out these issues. We're supposed to be the beacon of freedom for the world. And you know what? We have failed everybody.
I want you to ask yourself, okay? I want you to ask yourself to look at where America was, say, 50 years ago versus today. And ask yourself, would you say that the average American person has more freedom or less freedom since, let's say, the Patriot Act, for example?
Failure.
Did the Patriot Act give us more freedom?
Less freedom.
Correct. And I want you to think about all of the people in the world who live in countries not located in places like Western Europe, America, Japan, Australia, places that have governments that are oppressive, okay? I want you to think about these people that live in these places where their government is oppressive. And they look to the U.S. and they say, well, the U.S. is supposed to be a place of freedom and equality and, brotherly love. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. There's a reason why it's called that. And the simple fact is that if I were a person living in, North Korea, China, Russia, whatever, one of these really severely oppressive countries, and I was looking at America, I would say, wow, this is what we're supposed to aspire to. This? Are you kidding me? Why? Looking from my perspective, especially based on the perspective of history, what I say is, America has already fallen into autocracy.
Yes.
Let me be clear, my friends, because it would be foolish to mince words on this important of a topic, okay? In my opinion, we have already moved without anyone even batting an eye. We have moved from a republic to an empire, the same way that the Roman Republic moved from Roman Republic to Roman Empire. And it happened while we were focused on things that were completely unimportant. Like, oh, I want the blue team in the White House. I want the red team in the White House. Guys.
They're the same team.
Open your eyes, okay? If we, the people, are fighting each other, then that means that the people at the top win.
Correct.
You are more likely today to get reelected to Congress than at any point in our nation's history. You also have the lowest approval rating for Congress that there has ever been. Why? If you are looking at where our country is right now and you don't like where it's going, okay? There are some excellent places to go. If you are a person who tends to be more blue, you can go to places like Run for Something. That is a website and a community where you can where you can learn from other people who have run for office. There's plenty of ones on the red side of the aisle as well. There's ones, I don't remember the name of it, but there's one that there's one where they help you to go through the legal system, do something like, get your law degree, become a judge, become a mayor. Like they build up the bench of judges for the conservative side of the aisle. And, I may not agree with some of the politics, but that is a good system for bringing people in and training them on how to do the job.
Correct.
And the simple fact is, if you, one, would like a steady, exceptionally well-paying job, and two, don't like what's happening to our country, how about you take an example from us and run for office? And that is my soapbox for the day.